Good afternoon. Welcome to the We the People Challenge National Finals. We commend you on your participation. My name is Gus Chin. I'm a municipal judge for the cities of Holiday and Cottonwood Heights in the state of Utah.
Good afternoon. My name is Britt Cremeyer. I'm originally from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a We the People alum, so I know how nervous you are. So don't worry, I've been there. And I am now a practicing attorney in Boise, Idaho. So happy to be here with you.
And I am Les Volpe. I'm an attorney in Denver, Colorado. Welcome to you all.
Would you please introduce yourselves?
Good afternoon, judges. We are the Unit 5 representatives from Wauwatosa East High School in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. We are coached by Mr. Daniel McHugh and Mr. Tyler Marson. My name is Kale Lund.
Good afternoon. My name is Sienna Daniels.
And my name is Issa Lenz.
Thank you. The question for this unit reads as follows. Richard Posner wrote that the American public worries more about invasions of privacy than about summary proceedings against suspected terrorists, curtailments of the freedom of speech of the law-abiding, or the right of the media to publish government secrets. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Why or why not? To what extent, if any, is privacy in jeopardy today? What protection, if any, do people have from privacy violations by governments or businesses? You may begin.
It was an unprecedented time. People were requested to shelter in place and police went door to door asking to search homes. The Boston Marathon bombing is just one example of how historically, when the nation has been in times of distress, citizens have been more willing to give up privacy concerns in regard for safeguard protections. However, this has created a modern society where the lack of privacy protection regarding digital data has become a major threat in citizens' eyes. Although our nation favors security over privacy, specifically in times of distress, in cases like the Patriot Act, the government has tended to overstep, ultimately infringing on citizens' privacy protections.
There have also been instances in which other rights, such as freedom of speech, have taken prevalence over other issues. But in these instances, the Supreme Court has used judicial activism and reacted to the people. For example, in cases such as Tinker v. Des Moines and Brandenburg v. Ohio, established important precedents related to freedom of speech. And since digital data is a newer issue, there are far fewer precedents and protections. There has been a lack of governmental action in regards to protecting privacy, resulting in a rising concern over privacy.
Due to the NSA, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and an overall lack of policy, the privacy rights of American citizens are in grave danger. Pew Research Center reports that 81% of Americans are fearful that their privacy will be invaded due to the collection of metadata. This is evident in court cases such as the First Unitarian Church of Los Angeles v. NSA and Clapper v. NSA, which all argue that the NSA has breached people's Fourth Amendment rights by collecting data. The ruling in Tehan v. United States should be respected, as NSA collecting metadata without direct permission from citizens has been argued a violation of both Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights.
Section 213 and 215 of the Patriot Act allowed the government to delay notice of searches and seizures and the mass collection of metadata by the NSA respectively, both of which are violations of First and Fourth Amendments. The public outcry regarding the Patriot Act resulted in the USA Freedom Act. However, the USA Freedom Act extended Section 215 and only condensed other parts of the Act.
There are some protections of the right to privacy, some of which are enumerated in the Constitution, while others are placed by the states and the Supreme Court. The Fourth Amendment, for example, protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. Furthermore, the self-incrimination clause of the Fifth Amendment, as interpreted in Tehan v. United States, is a protection of personal privacy. The Supreme Court has also placed some rulings protecting digital privacy and expanding on the Fourth Amendment, as seen in Katz v. United States and Carpenter v. United States.
Although there have been some action by the Supreme Court to protect privacy in the digital age, it has proven insufficient as much of the policy regarding digital privacy has been left up to the states. Every state has adopted a data breach notification legislature, but only a few have had a legislature that gone further than just a notification of data breach. The California Consumer Privacy Act creates new consumer rights relating to the access to, deletion of, and sharing of personal information that is collected by businesses. This is a good start as far as policy goes. However, the CCPA only applies to businesses in California and therefore lacks the true protection necessary for citizens to feel as though their privacy is protected.
To increase the feeling of security of privacy, the United States should look to international examples. In the European Union, there is a European Data Protection Board, which has implemented the General Data Protection Regulation. This policy ensures the equal protection of personal data to everyone, no matter what country they live in. If the United States could work towards implementing more funding and policies such as these, it would allow citizens to worry less about privacy and more about other pressing issues. This concludes our statement, and we are ready for your questions.
Thank you. I was intrigued by in your presenting remarks that you mentioned two cases and referenced judicial activism. Do you think if the courts were to therefore promote or rule in favor of greater privacy protection, that they're going to be deemed activists and that therefore they may be reluctant?
I think that they may be reluctant to be deemed as activists in regard to that. We can see that the Supreme Court has already ruled on cases such as Katz v. United States, which has said that the government requires a warrant to search through digital data. However, we can see that that has not been respected. For example, the FISA courts and the Terrorist Surveillance Act.
Les, go with your question, please.
Very good. The question that I have is, if the courts are reluctant, as you've just observed, what can we do as citizens to force our central government, being the legislature in particular, to do more to protect us from these kinds of invasions of privacy? What can we do to force them to act?
I think the answer to your question would be what we always do when citizens feel that there's an injustice, which would be to protest and to advocate on our behalves. You can see monumental change with the gay rights movement, which eventually caused same-sex marriage to be legal across all of the United States. So something similar to that kind of activism could do great good in promoting data protection.
Furthermore, I would say in this activism, we should try to strive for something like the European Data Protection Board, because currently right now, only 14 out of the 50 states has legislature that is more than just a breach of data notification. And I think we need to advocate more to get a federal system so everybody knows what their rights are protected when it comes to digital privacy, no matter which state you live in.
Thank you, Britt.
You mentioned that the EU is doing a lot of things better than the United States, and that California has some great legislation, but it only applies to businesses that are in California. While legislation might be necessary, how do we balance privacy with the common good, such as battling both domestic and foreign terrorism?
I think that something that we could do that could really help the situation for both protecting citizens' privacy rights and the common good would be just to say that people have to be alerted. So something specific to FISA is that the Attorney General can obtain a warrant and go through people's information without them even knowing about it. So I think that a notification of this search would be important, so that they're no longer violating the Fourth Amendment.
Let me then follow up. What is the individual's role relative to bringing about these privacy protections?
Currently, I would say the citizen's role is to understand what things like the third-party doctrine, and understand when they sign up for places like Facebook that their information could possibly be spread, and also to read things like terms and conditions so they know what their privacy looks like currently. And so when things are collected, they're not unknowing about it.
Britt, do you have a follow-up question, please?
Is it possible in the modern age for us to even opt out of being involved or leaving a digital footprint?
I do believe it would be possible to completely opt out, but I do believe it would be very challenging. So much of our daily lives are connected, whether it be through our school accounts, whether it be through workplace. So theoretically, yes, but I don't believe with our technological era, it would be possible at all.
I would kind of disagree and say that it would be impossible just off the bat. I think that it's very necessary to be involved in kind of the digital world, and that rulings such as Dickerson v. United States and the United States v. U.S. District Court, it would make it very difficult for information that you have said online to not be used in a trial against you.
Do you believe that the American public is as motivated to do something about this as you appear to be, when they won't even read the agreements that go along with their use of internet companies? They don't even bother to read those 57-page documents.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Pew Research study did a survey, and 97% of Americans say they have never read those terms and agreements. And I think the reason is because terms and agreements are over 90 pages long. And I think companies make these terms and agreements that long on purpose to make it not necessary for people to actually read, so they don't actually know what their privacy is being protected. That's why I'm fighting to get a more policy in this situation, so people know exactly what they are signing up for when they are clicking those terms and agreements, and it is easier for people to understand, so they don't have to read over 90 pages of terms and agreement to just sign up for a single app or sign up for some website or something like that.
Friends, our time is up. Well done. Let's applaud these students on a job well done. Thank you for giving us the privilege of being part of this wonderful challenge exercise via technology. We commend you on your commitment to the program, your dedication in bringing about change, which you have identified by virtue of your remarks. I appreciate the depth of your approach to the question posed. I appreciate the contrasting authorities you provided. Be prepared to address judicial activism whenever there's a judge on your panel, because oftentimes when we make decisions at whatever level, it's deemed activist, but not necessarily in line with constitutional ideals. So that term is sometimes used a bit loosely. That's why I jumped at that first question with you. But I do appreciate your approach and wish you well in your future endeavors. My fellow judges.
Thank you. Congratulations on making it to nationals. It has been such a pleasure listening to you, both your prepared remarks as well as your follow-up feedback / responses to our numerous questions. I greatly appreciate you opting in to participate. I know part of going to nationals is going to DC, and yet all of you decided, instead of just couch surfing and watching Netflix or Hulu, to dig in and do a lot of difficult research. And I appreciate your thoughtfulness in everything that you've done. It's inspiring. I look forward to seeing you guys go into the workforce and into the world and do great things. I know you will. I hope you continue to stay informed and stay educated. And of course, I hope you're involved in civics and whatever you do, whether it's the medical field, serve on boards, whether it's to be a politician, enact legislation, whether it's to be a teacher and inspire young people to get involved in programs like We the People. Whatever you are, be a good one, right? Like Abraham Lincoln said. And it's been such a pleasure. I turn it over to Les now.
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for your extremely hard work. Under difficult circumstances where you can't even go to school and can't meet in large groups and the like. I appreciate what you have done. I appreciate what you have given us today in terms of your understanding. You addressed some points that I thought were unique to your presentation, in that you disagreed with Posner in saying, we haven't forgotten about the other rights. For heaven's sakes, look at Tinker versus Des Moines and Brandenburg versus Ohio. Our courts are still protecting other rights. What we need to do is figure out a way to protect our privacy to a greater extent than we presently protect it. And as I've told prior teams, This is a problem to be solved by your generation. You have more knowledge than 95% of the voting public. And as we've talked about, the fact that the great bulk of users of artificial intelligence and the internet don't even bother to read the agreements and figure out what they're giving away voluntarily. We have got to work with our government to, as you pointed out, the European Union and others have taken steps to force these companies to disclose what they have gathered and what they have given away with regard to our privacy. I think rather than trying to force the companies to act, we've got to go through our government to require that we give greater protection to our private, activity as citizens. You must become politically active. You must educate your fellow citizens with regard to the knowledge that you now have. Please, use what you've got. Educate your fellow citizens and organize activities that will force our government to take steps. I thank you for your efforts. I applaud you for your performance today.